Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about 5 reasons why you might be gassing out in BJJ, and at the end of the video I'm going to share with you some of the ways that I would use to fix them. Now everyone from white belt to black belt struggles with this, so don't think that it's just you. To be honest, I had a reminder of this myself just last week. So we had a blue belt who was visiting, and he was about, I don't know, 25 years younger than me, bigger than me, and he brought what some people might call blue belt energy with him. Now, I always like to make sure that visitors feel welcome to the gym, and I always think it's a nice touch if the coach of the class rolls with any visitors. So at the end of the session, I paired up with him, I had a roll with him. I managed to deal with him eventually, but not without a little bit of trouble. And the main issue was my gas tank. Now, after the round, one of the students in the class messaged me and he asked if I was okay because he noticed that I was breathing heavy. And it made me chuckle a little bit because I'm always the one emphasizing to students in the class the importance of staying calm, controlling the pace, and keeping your breathing under control. Now, I wasn't sure if this guy was genuinely concerned for me or if he was politely pointing out that I was being inefficient. I'd like to think it was the former. Either way, it doesn't matter. He wasn't wrong. Now, I explained to him at the time that I'd just come back from 2 weeks of holiday. I'd eaten crap on holiday. I'd drunk like crap. I hadn't trained properly. And on top of that, I'd recently come off some medication for an autoimmune condition. Not excuses, or maybe it was, but these were genuine reasons why my body wasn't at its best. But it highlighted something important. Even after years of training, even as a black belt, you're not immune to gassing out. So that brings us to 5 reasons. I'm sure there's plenty more, but 5 reasons that I've been thinking about why this happens to us. So the first reason is adrenaline dump. Even in training, your body can spike with adrenaline, especially if you haven't rolled in a while or if you're paired with someone much younger, someone much stronger, someone who's aggressive, someone who's, maybe 2 or 3 ranks above you. You're gonna have, or you might have, an adrenaline dump. And it just feels like your gas tank is completely emptied in seconds, but it's really just your nervous system flooding with adrenaline. Now in competition, this is 10 times, 100 times worse. The second reason is poor breathing habits. Now most people don't breathe properly when they roll. They either hold their breath in bad positions or their breathing gets really erratic and they start breathing really heavily through the mouth. And this is one of the fastest ways to burn out. Now, when I'm coaching no-gi classes, I always start every session with slow rolls, usually 10 1-minute slow rolls, where everyone's just got to breathe through the nose. Only through the nose, no mouth breathing whatsoever, and it's just a flow roll. And if I catch anyone mouth breathing, then it usually means that they're going too hard, and they usually get punished either with burpees or press ups or something else like that at the end of the slow rolls. The third reason is pace and ego. Now this is exactly what I face when I roll with the blue belt. Younger, bigger, bringing the energy. And if you match that pace instead of controlling it, then you'll gas out every time. Now, I like to think I eventually controlled it, maybe after a minute or two, but for that first minute, this guy was trying like crazy to pass my guard. And when you're trying to retain guard or recover guard, multiple times, it can eventually get to you, especially if you've not been training for a while and you're already not in the best BJJ shape. Beginners always think that they need to go at 100% all of the time. Even higher belts can fall into the trap of letting someone else dictate the pace. I kind of fell for that myself. Partly, I think, because, I was rolling with this guy and the rest of the class was sat around watching. So there's probably a little bit of ego came into play as well. I didn't want to be getting, smashed by a visiting blue belt after I'd just coached a class. But these things happen. You can get roped in to somebody else's pace. The fourth reason is technical inefficiency. Wasted movement and unnecessary muscle will just kill your cardio. Gripping too hard, squeezing too much, using your strength when you don't need to. All of these things add up. And that's why people who train relaxed often seem like they can roll forever, while others gas out after just a few minutes. And finally, the fifth reason, and like I say, it's not, there's not only 5 reasons, these are 5 reasons that I've been thinking about recently. The fifth reason is conditioning and recovery. You need to be fit, but the type of fitness matters. BJJ is isometric, it's explosive, and it's unpredictable, which means jogging 10 miles a day won't save you when you're rolling on the mat. Add to that poor sleep, bad diet, dehydration, or in my case recently, coming off medication, eating and drinking like crap when you're on holiday, and your gas tank will empty really, really fast. So how do you fix these 5 problems? The first step is to deal with the adrenaline dump by exposing yourself to, those difficult rounds. Put yourself in tough rolls, simulate competition pressure, and eventually your body will adapt to it. Now, for breathing, you need to train it deliberately. And I've made several videos dedicated to breathing in BJJ. Check those out if you haven't seen them already. But I'll also mention again my good friend Glyn Powditch. He's a 3rd degree black belt, and I've trained with him, or I've known him for a long, long time now, maybe 20 years or so. And he's just released a course on BJJ Fanatics called Breathe to Win, which is definitely worth a look if you want to improve your breathing and your composure under pressure. So the third fix is about pace and ego. Don't let someone else dictate the pace. You need to stay calm. You need to stay relaxed. And if your opponent is just going wild, going hell for leather, then sometimes the smartest move is just to accept it, stay on the bottom, stay safe, whatever you need to do. If it means tapping because they're thrashing around at full speed, then just tap. There's no shame in it. You'll last longer. You'll improve more in the long run by staying composed. You can't afford to fall into that trap of trying to match the pace of a 20-year-old white belt or a 20-year-old blue belt who's just trying his damnedest to submit you. Get yourself out of the role and move on to someone who's going to give you a much more rewarding and safer role. The fourth fix is technical efficiency. You need to relax your grips. You need to not cling onto things that you don't need to, and you need to just trust leverage and trust your frames instead of trying to rely on muscle. It's the difference between lasting 2 minutes and lasting 20 minutes. And finally, the fifth fix is conditioning and recovery. Work on BJJ specific conditioning like shark tanks, gripping drills, positional sparring. There's a lot to be said for positional sparring, over rolling. Fuel your body properly, hydrate, sleep as much as you can. Recovery is where your cardio really gets built. So that's just 5 reasons. I told you there's probably hundreds more. I'm sure you've got plenty more that you can share. But if you're gassing out in BJJ, don't just assume it's because you're unfit. Look at these 5 areas. Look at other areas that you might identify yourself. But specifically look at the ones I've talked about here: adrenaline, breathing, pace, efficiency, and recovery. Fix those, and I'm sure you'll be rolling longer, calmer, better. But if you've got others, then let me know what they are in the comments. I'd love to know what reasons you guys, find for gassing out and the ways that you find to fix them. So let me know what's helped you improve. Drop your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, click that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this and lots of other content on BJJ and fitness and all those things related to that we can bring into it, other martial arts. And I'll see you again in the next video. Take care, guys.